Welcome to the first episode of Photography Review. This is not another typical camera review. We review photography as a contemporary art form, not as a showcase of fancy gear and gadgets. Because it's not about what you hold in your hands, but what you see with your eyes, feel with your soul, and understand with your mind. In this episode, we'll be reviewing 5 photographs, each from a different photographer, all carefully selected by the Nothingraphy community through our Instagram and Facebook group. Geometry of the Everyday, a Quiet Standoff. This photograph was captured by Bartłomiej Stępień from Katowice, Poland. Composition and Geometry. The image demonstrates a masterful use of geometry and lines. Shot from an elevated angle, the intersection becomes an abstract composition of diagonals, rectangles, and curves. The pedestrian lanes slice through the image like bold brushstrokes, while the white boundary lines gently curve inwards, leading the eye toward the center. This overhead viewpoint flattens space and transforms a mundane street corner into a striking geometric pattern. Use of space and minimalism. There is a strong sense of minimalism throughout the photograph. The open space, limited color palette, and absence of visual clutter create a calm yet psychologically charged atmosphere. The emptiness is not voided, allows the viewer to breathe and reflect. The pavement, with just a few blades of grass breaking through, adds subtle texture and evidence of time. Narrative and human element. The presence of the man and dog introduces a subtle narrative tension. The two figures are visually separated, yet connected by the implied motion both are in the act of moving, but not toward each other. The dog pauses, possibly alert, while the man walks with purpose. This pause versus motion dynamic adds emotional rhythm to an otherwise static composition. Color and mood. The photograph is cloaked in cool, bluish tones, suggesting early morning or dusk time often associated with contemplation, transition, or solitude. This choice enhances the feeling of quiet, urban isolation. Interpretation. The viewer might ponder themes such as direction, decision-making, companionship, or disconnection. The urban landscape, often overlooked, becomes a stage for small but meaningful moments. Why? It's a contemporary photograph. This photograph qualifies as contemporary photography because it transcends mere documentation and invites deeper interpretation. The conceptual depth of the image lies in how it prompts the viewer to reflect on human presence, movement, space, and time. Through an overhead perspective, the scene becomes a piece of visual abstraction transforming everyday elements, like crosswalks and sidewalks, into shapes, lines, and rhythms. What might otherwise be a simple act-a-person walking a doggies, rendered poetic by the careful composition, subdued colors, and quiet mood. The image carries a sense of emotional and spatial ambiguity, where the narrative feels open-ended, encouraging contemplation rather than providing answers. Ultimately, it emphasizes intent over aesthetics, focusing less on technical precision and more on the meaning, feeling, and quiet questions it evokes, defining qualities of contemporary photographic art. Stillness, measured in loops and lines. This photograph was captured by Gräf from Potsdam, Germany. Composition and use of space. This photograph is an exquisite study in minimalism and spatial awareness. The frame is horizontally layered, the concrete foreground, the midground barrier wall, and the soft expanse of the sky above. The visual balance is delicately held together by a coiled rope, the only notable object interrupting the vastness. Its placement slightly off-center enhances the natural tension in the image, guiding the viewer's gaze gently from left to right. Light and color palette. Soft daylight illuminates the scene without casting harsh shadows. The colors are subdued and earthy grays, tans, and pale blues. This muted palette contributes to a sense of calm detachment. The slight rust on the wall and the faintly green tuft of grass poking through a storm drain are the only traces of life, adding quiet narrative touches to an otherwise static frame. Texture and materiality. The coarse texture of the rope, the rough surface of the concrete, and the smooth gradient of the sky create a tactile contrast. This interplay between natural and industrial materials evokes a subtle dialogue between what is man-made, what is discarded, and what endures quietly in the margins. Narrative and ambiguity. There is no direct story, and yet the absence becomes the subject. The photograph feels like a moment paused, not in anticipation, but in reflection. What is this rope for? Why is it left here? Has it served its purpose, or is it waiting for something to happen? The ambiguity invites contemplation rather than resolution, which is a hallmark of more conceptual art. Emotional tone. The image emits a calm melancholy, the kind that comes from isolation, or perhaps from simplicity. The emptiness isn't cold or void, it's meditative. It evokes the feeling of standing still, in a vast space, where nothing shouts, but everything subtly whispers. Why it qualifies as a contemporary photograph. This image exemplifies contemporary photography due to its conceptual intent, minimal aesthetic, and open-ended meaning. It transforms an everyday, overlooked object into a subject of contemplation through framing, context, and stillness. Rather than documenting or decorating, the photograph engages with ideas, absence, utility, and the poetry of ordinary spaces. That shift from representation to interpretation is what defines it as a work of contemporary photographic art. An object left behind, yet deeply present. This photograph was captured by Reynold Pal. The scene, a silent encounter. In the middle of a quiet, reflective body of water, floats an upside-down red plastic chair alone, misplaced and still. It's an object we often ignore in daily life, now stripped of its function and reintroduced as a visual question. This accidental placement or quiet intervention transforms the chair into more than itself. It becomes a presence, not loud, not explained just there, and that simple presence in an open space is the beginning of meaning. Color and composition, contrast in calm. The vivid red of the chair cuts through the soft blues and greens of the landscape, like a whisper that demands to be heard. The composition is minimal, yet deliberate. The still water acts as both surface and mirror or doubling the chair, and in turn, doubling its mystery. Space plays a major role here. The open areas around the subject are not empty. They breathe. This is not a photo of a chair. It's a photo of contrast, of interruption, of attention. Context and meaning, the art of ambiguity. Contemporary photography rarely provides answers. It values uncertainty, suggestion, and emotional space. This image thrives on its ambiguity. It doesn't declare a story, it quietly invites one. Why is this chair here? Was it abandoned or placed with intention? The photograph becomes a container, and the viewer pours meaning into it. This is the gift of conceptual photography. It allows you to see not only what is, but also what could be. Symbolism in the everyday, the chair as object and idea. A plastic chair is one of the most utilitarian, overlooked objects in our world. But when removed from its setting and left to float, it becomes something poetic. It may represent isolation, disuse, or absurdity, or simply the poetry of the overlooked. Contemporary art often finds power in the everyday. This chair, meaningless on its own, becomes a metaphor for presence in absence, for disconnection, or for the humor hidden in the surreal. It asks nothing, but says everything. Contemporary depth, finding everything in nothing. This photograph speaks the language of minimalism and quiet tension. It is not about action, it is about awareness. It's about how photography, at its most reflective, can turn nothing into a vessel of thought and emotion. The emptiness is not empty, it's a mirror. The photograph doesn't shout. It waits for the viewer to see, to feel, and to complete it. And that is the essence of contemporary photography: presence, silence, and the quiet transformation of the ordinary into the meaningful. A breath before the wave breaks. This photograph was captured by Jérôme Laune from France. Composition and balance. This image is composed with a deep respect for visual balance. The wave, slightly off-center, forms a gentle arc that guides the eye from left to right, in harmony with the horizon line. The lower third is occupied by the sea's motion, while the upper portion offers a calm, diffused sky. This layering of movement and stillness creates a poetic contrast. Color and light. The palette is soft and natural greens melting into blues, framed by the pale, moody light of a cloudy sky. The wave glows with a translucent green, hinting at hidden energy beneath the calm surface. The lighting feels neither harsh nor staged. It honors natural light in its most contemplative state. Mood and interpretation. This image speaks quietly but with depth. It captures the essence of a moment just before it transforms, before the wave breaks. This suspended tension evokes introspection, impermanence, and the quiet rhythm of nature. There's no dramatic splash, no grand narrative, only presence making it emotionally immersive. Minimalism and focus. There are no distractions, just ocean, wave, sky. The absence of people or objects brings the viewer face to face with form and essence. This reduction to elements invites a meditative viewing experience. Why this is a contemporary photograph. This image qualifies as contemporary photography due to its conceptual focus and minimalism. It doesn't aim to impress with spectacle or technical complexity, but instead uses simplicity to invite deeper thought. Its subject, the sea, becomes a metaphor for emotion, time, or consciousness. This interpretive openness, coupled with an emphasis on atmosphere and subtlety, aligns it with the values of contemporary photographic art. Freedom, fenced in. This photograph was captured by Tom Grant from North Norfolk, UK. First impression. At first glance, this image seems to be a simple urban capturean old blue truck behind a metal fence near a brick wall. But as one observes longer, the scene unfolds into a layered commentary on presence, abandonment, and illusion. Subject and composition. The central subject, a blue Land Rover Defender, or similar vehicle, is fenced off physically and symbolically. The vertical lines of the steel bars not only divide the frame, but also fragment the truck visually. This results in a visual tension. The viewer is simultaneously invited to observe and discouraged from connecting with the subject. The composition is tightly framed, with the corner of the brick building and the gate forming a geometric backdrop. The placement of the truck just behind the intersection of these planes gives it a boxed-in, almost imprisoned feel. Use of texture and color. The muted blues and greens of the vehicle contrast subtly with the red bricks and the dull steel bars. The natural green of the grass at the bottom adds a dash of life to an otherwise static and abandoned scene. Rust, fading paint, and weathering are crucial elements, here adding a temporal layer, reminding us of decay and time's passage. Space and depth. Despite the flat lighting, the image has a notable sense of depth due to the layered elements: fence, truck, wall. The shadows cast between these layers enhance dimensionality. But emotionally, the space feels compressed and claustrophobic, perhaps echoing the themes of neglect or forgotten utility. Symbolism and interpretation. This image is rich in metaphor. The truck once, a vehicle of motion and adventure, is now idle, caged, and rusting. The fence symbolizes not just physical separation, but emotional and existential stagnation. It hints at the modern condition. Useful things and people being left behind, locked away from relevance. Moreover, the fact that the truck's paint nearly blends with the fence creates an illusion, blurring the boundary between subject and barrier. It raises a question. Is the truck becoming part of its prison? Viewer engagement. The viewer is subtly challenged to look through the barstow, decode the form behind them. This ambiguity, this demand for closer inspection draws one in. Why it qualifies as contemporary photography. This photograph fits within the realm of contemporary photography due to its conceptual depth and visual ambiguity. The metal bars both conceal and define the subject, inviting viewers to look beyond the literal and explore deeper meanings. Its found aesthetic, capturing a real, untouched scene, transforms the ordinary into a quiet visual statement. The emotional contrast between the once mobile vehicle and its current confinement evokes a subtle but powerful narrative. Together, these elements reflect the introspective and interpretive qualities that define contemporary photographic art. Nothingraphy is a community-based print edition photo book and magazine. Photography is the art of capturing the moment. And to truly capture the moment, a photographer must be fully present. This presence is mindfulness. The camera becomes more than a tool. It becomes a spiritual instrument, guiding us into the now. Through this practice, photography transforms. It becomes meditation. It becomes Nothingraphy. Connect with us and submit your work for review, for a chance to be featured and published. Subscribe to our YouTube channel, Nothingraphy.